The scene begins in Whitechapel, London, where a guy goes to a bar in search of a couple of girls he has been eyeing. The girls, as usual, flee the scene as soon as they see the guy. Back in Oslo, Alfhildur awakens from a nightmare with mud on her hair. A few moments later, she receives a call from work informing her of a drug overdose case in the old Tøyen service tunnel. Following this, she goes to the informed location and meets Wench, who expresses her dislike for working with Alfhildur because she is a pain for her, just like the hemorrhoids. Ignoring her, Alfhildur jumps through a fence and walks to the tunnel, only to find a woman brutally murdered. She then requests that an investigation team be dispatched to the scene because it is not a drug overdose case. On the other hand, Lars visits his consultant, who inquires about his mental state after getting rid of those drops. According to the consultant, Lars exhibited unusual behavior when he quit the drops. She also inquires whether he still believes the government broke into his home and stole a hard drive he obtained from the Neo-Luddite community. Lars responds that it was most likely a hallucinogenic side effect of quitting the eye drops. In the police headquarters, Alfhildur explains that the murdered victim's hair and teeth indicate that she is a Beforeigner of 19th century origin who is most likely unregistered or has entered the country illegally. Despite the fact that the victim's identity is unknown, several factors indicate that she was involved in criminal activity. Later that evening, Alfhildur returns home with a handcuff and a camera from her locker. The next day, Lars meets with Harold to discuss his reappointment in the police force, but Harold claims that his health consultant is strict with rules and that she is considering further evaluation before granting him the license. However, Harold informs Lars that he has persuaded the chief to hire him as an external consultant in the ongoing case. A few moments later, Lars notices that Alfhildur hasn't been answering Wench's phone, so he goes to her house and discovers that she has handcuffed herself in bed. She explains that she has been locked since the morning and that the key has broken. She also mentions that she needs to use the restroom urgently, so Lars gets a bucket to help her out. Following this, he manages to break the handcuff and free her. She then reveals that she has a sleepwalking problem and that she wanted to record herself. Following that, Alfhildur and Wench go to the forensic lab, where the expert explained the murder case to them. According to the forensic expert, the killer knows how to use a knife and is also familiar with anatomy. He also informs them that the victim's clitoris has been removed. Wench mocks Alfhildur because she is unaware of the clitoris. In the following scene, we see King Olav Haraldsson of Norway arrive at FDI, where he presents the names of several people who can confirm his true identity from the past world. However, the senior authority denies him, claiming that the majority of those on the list are registered with a 0 memory level. This enraged Olav, who warns him not to deny Norway's greatest king. He also refers to himself as a sword that God uses to punish his enemies. Despite this, the senior authority does not take him seriously and dismisses him. Following this, Olav goes to Mad and informs him that the people in power now do not like discussing such topics. Mad tries to console him by saying that the people in power now are different than in the past, but he is skeptical. Meanwhile, Alfhildur contacts Tor for help with her sleepwalking problem. Tor then suggests she seek help from a witch named Volva. Upon reaching there, Volva tastes Alfhildur's spit before telling her about her past when Tor and his father rescued her from the sea. Hearing this, Alfhildur believes Tor has revealed her past to the witch, so she confronts Tor, but he denies having revealed her past to the witch. Tor believes Volva had a vision, to which she responds that if she had a true vision, she would have seen with her own eyes rather than through the eyes from another gaze. The same night, Lars compares the recent murder case to the murder case from London and finds it to be similar. As a result, Lars suspects that the murders are being committed by a serial killer. The following day, he informs Harold, who forwards it to their English colleagues. When Wench learns of this, she approaches Lars and tells him that he cannot recommend a serial killer to another country's police authority without first consulting with her and Alfhildur. On the other hand, Olav and his men visit a museum and come across a human skull. One of his men informs him that the present timers can figure out all kinds of things from the bones using DNA, causing him to be surprised. Following this, he decides to trace the kinship from his son Magnus's body, who has been buried. The following day, Harold receives an email from the London Metropolitan Police about a similar murder case, and as a result, they arrange a meeting. Following that, 2 officers from the London Metropolitan Police Service, Rubinstein and Clark, arrive at the headquarters to discuss the murder case. Rubinstein appears to be the same person who was searching for the girls in the first scene. According to Rubinstein, there was an unregistered arrival from the 19th century near Brighton. He avoided entering the arrival program by threatening a local harbor guard with a razor-like object. He was served with a warrant, but he was never apprehended. A few months later, he was implicated in the case of White-Capel murders. Rubenstein and Clark claim that Jack the Ripper has time-migrated. Rubenstein gives Lars a book in order for him to learn about the original Jack the Ripper case. After that, they all go to the forensic lab, where Rubenstein examines the victim's body and concludes that Jack the Ripper has already arrived in Oslo. The same night, Lars is reading Rubenstein's book when he is approached by Odin, a prehistorian. Odin reveals himself to be the god for whom Calv works. After witnessing this, Lars believes he has begun hallucinating again and decides to enter his room to take his medicine. But Odin stops him, claiming that it's him who determines when the night begins and ends. Meanwhile, Alfhildr ties her hands to the bed before falling asleep. At midnight, Rubenstein goes to the police station and pretends to be sent by Harold. He then retrieves the detailed information about 3 girls from their database. Following this, he returns to Clark and shows her the files he found. They then burn their ID cards, which reveals that they are not real police officers. In the following scene, Olav is approached by his true followers, who have brought him his son's skull at his instruction. Seeing this, Olav declares that his son will restore his name and fame. Later, we hear the news that King Magnus's grave at Nidaros Cathedral has been vandalized. Meanwhile, Alfhildr sleepwalks to work in her undergarments, which surprises everyone. On the other hand, a lady named Ophelia, who works at the Citizen, receives a letter with a piece of clitoris attached to it. As soon as she notices this, she faints and her coworkers call the police. A few moments later, Lars, Alfhildr and Wench arrive at the Citizen for investigation. Upon reading the letter, Lars believes the letter bears striking similarities to a letter from the original Jack the Ripper case. Following this, they decide to seal the premises and summon the forensic team for further investigation. Later, one of the police officers approaches Alfhildr and informs her that sleep disturbances among Beforeigners can be very serious. She advises Alfhildr to take her problem seriously, to which Alfhildr responds that she has seen a consultant with a knowledge of the old faith. When the officer hears this, she advises her to see a doctor rather than a witch. In the police station, Lars explains about the letter to Harold, who decides to share the news with London Metropolitan Police. Lars, who is unaware of their true identities, attempts to contact Rubenstein and Clark, but they do not answer the phone. Elsewhere, the guy from the bee farm receives a letter via pigeon and learns that some visitors from abroad might be arriving at the farm. After the work, Lars returns home where he finds Odin again. He believes it is a hallucination, but Odin hits him with a stick and suggests he find the library where the Ripper's book is borrowed. Odin also mentions to him that Rubenstein and Clark are not the real police officers. The next day, Lars questions Harold about Rubenstein and Clark in order to confirm their true identities. He then claims to have investigated the London Metropolitan Police Services HR department and discovered that there are no officers with the name Rubenstein. Furthermore, Clark's phone number does not match the one on the business card she gave them. Following that, they gather the team and reveal that they were duped by the 2 imposters. Soon after, they set up a video conference with the real London police officers, Clark and the senior investigator, Henry. Henry then displays a photograph of a lady who pretended to be Clark and informs him that she is a time migrant from Nigeria. Her actual name is Adipero and she works for Neo-Luddites. However, they do not have any information about Rubenstein. Lars reports that Rubenstein borrowed a book from a mental institution's library, and that the legal team is looking for clues. On the other hand, Rubenstein pays a visit to an elderly man in order to request a favor. Rubenstein explains that he needs to leave for a journey, and asks the elderly man to keep his earthly belongings so that he can help his family if something befalls him. It appears that Rubenstein is leaving for a lighthouse in order to apprehend a man named Jack. He believes that God has given him a vocation to stop Jack. Following that, he goes to a bar, gets drunk, and engages into a fight with the locals for no apparent reason. The next day, a woman picks up Rubenstein and Adipero in the cart and takes them to the bee farm. The farmhand invites both of them to lunch. During this time, the guy inquires about their project, but they remain tight-lipped about it. In the forensic lab, the forensic expert reveals that the flesh attached to the letter is not a part of human but of dolphin. According to the forensic expert, the dolphin's clitoris most closely resembles that of a human. They also discover that the letter is also a part of the Luddites' information manipulation. Later, the chief forbids the team from leaking information about the imposters and Jack the Ripper because it would be a public relations disaster. Meanwhile, Olav is keeping an eye on Tor as he works in his new office. Shortly after, Tor notices the police officers approaching the office, so he immediately goes to the basement, where several prehistorians are performing a ritual, and informs them about the cops. Just then, the officers then enter the office with a search warrant and begin searching the entire area. A few moments later, they discover a bag containing a human skull, and as a result, Tor is arrested right away. In the police station, Alfhildur enters the compartment where Tor has been apprehended and reveals that the contents of the bag are from a Nidaros cathedral break-in. Tor claims he is innocent because he was at Volva's party when the crime occurred. He also tells her that he remembers having sweets at the party, but the rest is hazy. Alfhildur then responds that the pills in Volva's casket are ecstasy, not sweets. Later, Lars returns home to find Ingrid waiting for him. Following that, they both head towards Gregers and Marie to have a conversation. Upon reaching there, Ingrid reveals to her parents that she is pregnant, causing the parents to be shocked. She also says that she hooked up with Olav's friend at a party. She is unable to explain further and thus walks away. The same night, Alfhildur visits Volva to inquire about Tor during the Nidaros incident. But Volva changes the topic, revealing that she knows about Alfhildur's past because she was a slave on the same island where Tor and his father brought her. When the people realized Volva's power, she was exiled from the area. Volva then convinces Alfhildur to let her know more about her, to which she agrees. Following this, the two end up getting intimate with each other. After the intercourse, Alfhildur asks her if she learned anything, but Volva does not reveal anything. At home, Lars investigates the mental institution's library and discovers that Rubinstein's real name is Isaac Ben Joseph. The following day, he informs Alfhildur of the same, as well as the fact that Isaac is receiving treatment for paranoid schizophrenia. He believes Isaac is the murderer in the tunnel case. Later, Lars orders one of the officers, Alex, to locate the data that Isaac had previously stolen. Alex then goes to the log room and sends the data to Henry, claiming that Isaac is aware of the girls. After this, he deletes data from the police database permanently. In the following scene, a woman approaches Ophelia and hands her the similar letter she received earlier, claiming to be written by Jack the Ripper. Meanwhile, Olav meets Volva near the sea, revealing that she has always worked for Olaf. Subscribe to see more videos like this, turn on the notifications, and leave a like to help the channel grow. Don't forget to watch part 4. Thanks for watching.